that here today, how law of attraction holds you there. It's easy to understand how a belief, a limited belief or any belief can hold you, because all a belief is a thought that you keep thinking. And all a thought that you keep thinking is a thought that you practiced long enough to activate the vibration. So law of attraction's keeping it going. So as we said earlier, let yourself off the hook, and instead of saying, I have a limited belief, instead say, I focused long enough on this thought that law of attraction brought me more of it, and so I keep looking at it. In other words, I don't have a belief problem, I have a focusing weakness.
Wow.
I focus on what's loudest instead of on what feels best.
Wow.
That's powerful. It's a squeaking wheel thing, isn't it? I focus on what's loudest instead of on what feels best. Think about that even with your children. Often, when they're the most unhappy, then you deal with it. If we were standing in your physical shoes, our children would receive our undivided attention when they're joyful, and they'd get nothing from us otherwise. Because we wouldn't go out of the vortex to play with them. But in fairness to the children, most of the time they're out of the vortex is because you were out first. Children woke up in the vortex. It was ornery mom they encountered, you see, or ornery teacher that they encountered. Children are much more likely to be in the vortex. Now, that's not to say that they don't have their moments too, and let's forgive them for having them because they were born to do that. But when you get all of this into perspective, don't you feel empowered? Don't you like knowing about your vortex? Don't you like knowing who you really are? Don't you like knowing what your emotions tell you? Don't you like knowing that you can think the thought that you choose? Don't you like letting yourself off the hook by saying, well, this thought's easier to think because I've been thinking it longer, but now I recognize, now that I'm aware of how I feel, that this thought that's easier to think isn't serving me very well. So because I care about how I feel, because I care about my alignment, because I care about my influence to others, because I care about teaching from inside the vortex, I'm going to bite the bullet a little bit, and I'm going to choke on some of those stories, and I'm going to tell better feeling stories. What trips so many of you up is that it sounds like we're saying, stop thinking that and start thinking that. And in fairness, friends, that's not possible. If that is way over there feeling that bad, you don't have access to what's way over there feeling that good. Got to sort of warm up to it. So what you do is you reach for the best feeling thought you can find, the best feeling thought you can find, until you train yourself into better feeling thoughts. And we really have to say to you that it shouldn't be the struggle that so many of you make it out to be, because every time you shift the thought, your indicators shift too. So when you feel a little better, life gets a little better. And when you feel a little better still, life gets a little better still. And when you feel a little better, life gets a little better still. And all of you would move quickly into the vortex if you would mind your own business and only pay attention to what you're thinking and feeling and what's coming back to you. But you're so interested in what others are doing and what others are thinking that you don't allow yourself the momentum. You start the momentum and then you say, oh, look over there. Someone's suffering. Oh. And then you say, oh, this doesn't feel good. Oh, look over there. Something else is wrong. And we say, don't do that. Okay. Get in the vortex. Demand that you be in the vortex. Demand of yourself that you be more in the vortex. Take ownership of who you really are. You're really brilliant, beautiful, frisky, good-feeling, healthy, prosperous beings. That's who you are. And anything less than that is screwy. Anything less than that is a fraudulent, fake, bogus reality. Bogus, 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 bogus. Not reality, not reality, not reality, not reality, not reality, not reality. You say, yes, it is. Look, reality all around it. Not the reality that we know, not the reality that we came for, not the reality that you came for, not what we all signed on for, not the reality. This is the reality. Make this your reality. Turn yourself in this direction. Find the feeling pleaks of this. Train yourself into this frequency. Blend with this. Be this. Exude this. Give the example of this. Let this be what others are understanding, and let them outside the vortex say, look over there, look over there, look what they're doing, look how they're thriving, look how they're prospering, look how they're feeling. I want that. You be the dominant influencer, you see. Okay. When you're not in the vortex, scream. This is the point we're making. Accept the anomaly of being out of the vortex. Don't accept it as just the way life is. Don't accept that. It's not the way life is, and it's not the way life is supposed to be, and it's not the way you're supposed to feel. It's off, it's off, it's off. It's all right for you to say, this is off, this is off, this is off. This is off. I want not this. Oh, there, I feel better. Now I'll go back to the vortex. But when you don't give yourself permission to have a step one moment, it just prolongs it. The other day, Jerry and Esther had the pleasure of meeting a little boy who they've met before, but they spent a little more time with him on one of the cruises. And he brought his magic tricks to their cabin to demonstrate them, and so they had fun watching his magic tricks. And then Jerry and Esther had a little gift for him, and so Esther gave him the gift, and she had tucked a little money in the gift. And as he opened it, he was much more delighted with the money than he was the gift, which is often the case. And then Esther got an idea that since they were doing magic, that she would just borrow his magic wand and produce more money, which sounded initially like a really good idea. So she tapped the wand and some money came sprouting out, and he said, "Do it again." And Esther thought, this is a very interesting dilemma. So she tapped the wand again and more money shot out. And he jumped with delight and said, "Do it again." And now he has a lot of money, which didn't matter to Esther, but she realized that she'd set something off. And so she said, "You know that we are playing here, and that this money is happening because I like it to happen for you." And he said, "I know, do it again." So then Esther realized that he wasn't playing the magic game at all anymore. He was playing the, I want money, you've got money, and if I say do it again, you will. And so Esther had reached her limit because she realized that she was teaching something that she meant not to teach. She wanted to have fun and she wanted to be playful, but she did not want to distort anything. And so she said, "I think that's all the magical money that's going to appear." And he said, "I want more." And Esther said, "I love it that you want. I love it that you want." And he looked expectantly, and Esther said, "I just love it that you want. And I love how your desire will bring you what you want from a lot of different places." And then Esther was done, and he knew it. In other words, she focused upon the perfection of his desire, but she removed her responsibility from being the avenue through which it would flow.
I love that.
And it required focus, but he knew it. In other words, once she lined up with the principle that I am not the vortex through which all of this will flow, but your desire is a wonderful thing, because you see, people become confused. If you make their desire wrong, right, you're out of sync with the laws of the universe. If you make yourself responsible to be the vortex through which it all flows, you're out of sync with the laws of the universe. But when you get it, that it's right for them to want, and you root for their desire, and you praise them for the detail of their desire, and you harmonize with their desire, and you encourage them to speak of what they want, you're in sync with the laws of the universe. And at the same time, as you acknowledge that some of what you want will naturally flow through me, and much of what you want will come through many other avenues, and won't it be fun to see through which avenues the things flow, they will discover a very satisfying independence from you being the vortex through which it flows. Well, we are specifically choosing those words today because when you do as you said you would, from your non-physical perspective, when you made the decision to come into this time-space reality, you said, I'll go forth into this leading edge contrast, and from it I will bring into focus my personal preference. Now, most of you don't have any real sense of the importance of that, the importance of it for you personally, or the importance of it for all that is. So you bring a part of the consciousness that is you into this body, and you explore contrast. You know what you don't want, you know what you do want, and through all of that variety, you bring into focus, in ways that you don't know you're doing it, an improved request. Now, when we ask you, are you enjoying the contrast that produces the desire within you? Sometimes you're very honest and you say, no, not actually. But we want you to understand that when that contrast that sometimes feels especially unpleasant is happening, that there is another side of the wave, another side of the vibrational wave. When you know what you don't want, there's a part of you that knows what you do want. And vibrationally, you are vibrational beings. You emanate this other side of this wave, and the larger part of you, the inner being part of you, the source energy part of you, who remained non-physically focused while you came forth into this body, receives the benefit of that new decision, that new preference that you've come to, and becomes it, literally. Doesn't just answer it in the sense that, oh, you want it, you've got it. Literally becomes the other side of that bounced wave. Now, the reason that we give this to you is because we want you to find a way to begin to appreciate the contrast that is coming into focus. In other words, when a problem is coming into focus for you, and you know how that goes. At first you don't notice it so much, and then it becomes bigger, and then you talk about it more, and then you get other people involved in it, and then more things like it begin manifesting around you until you have this issue. The whole time that that problem is coming into focus, there is a solution coming into focus equally, and equally emphatic, and equally specific answer to your question, solution to your problem. But most humans are unaware, because you're unaware that you're vibrational beings. You're unaware of the wave that you're setting forth. You're unaware, most of you, of the source energy part of you who remains non-physically focused. And so as you explore this contrast and know clearly what you don't want, even though you're giving birth to what you do want, and the solution is coming into focus and into vibrational beingness, most people just keep poking around at the problem because it's interesting. This stuff that is manifested has your attention. You see it with your eyes and hear it with your ears. You are so good at interpreting your time-space reality that you are enamored by reality. You think reality is the real deal. We thought you'd think that was funny. And we want you to know that this reality that you are calling reality, what's going on with your body, what's happening in your bank account, what's happening with your relationships, even what's happening in your world, what's happening in your global economy or your personal economy, what's happening in your ecology, what's happening in your government, what's happening in other governments. All of those things that are reality have your attention, but today we want to call your attention to the present tense, vibrational reality that you have given birth to. We want to help you to see that when you're looking around at what's manifested in terms of the dollars you have or the conditions of your body or the relationship state of being that is happening in what you call your now reality, we want to convince you here today that as real as it seems and as much as you can see it, hear it, smell it, taste it, touch it, it really is old news, vibrationally speaking, because it has produced this vortex of creation, this vibrational reality, which is where the larger part of you stands and bees. It's where the larger part of you stands and bees and feels. In other words, when you recognize, as you look at your bank account, that you don't have enough money and you ask for more, the larger part of you receives that vibrational equivalency and feels the prosperity as if it is manifested. When you're sick and therefore want to be well, the inner being part of you is weller than it was before you became sick. This is the evolution of all species. And if we can get your attention about this, if we can convince you about the validity and the reality of this vibrational reality, and if you can feel with us the present tenseness of it, then you will give less attention. You will have fewer knee-jerk reactions to what's going on in your physical now reality. And in doing so, you will diffuse the opposing vibration that is preventing what's in this vortex of creation, in this vibrational reality, from becoming. Do you know the only thing that prevents